IVM.
Hi,
You're
listening to IVM.
daily. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of IVM Daily, and I am Priyanka, and today I have a full studio. It's full of my fellow producers. Full studio. I have Karthik.
Hello.
And Swati.
Hello.
And Mr. Abbas.
Hi, Miss Priyanka.
Hi, Mr. Abbas. Okay, so today we are actually here to talk about, this one person you'd want to interview in this lifetime of yours, and the first 3 questions you would ask them.
Right.
The reason why I'm asking is this, because we're always, the constant shows that we're watching now, we've just become very used to a certain, interview pattern.
Right.
And probably like a liking for those shows. Okay, but if you had to do it, and because as producers, it's also a part of our job to keep a track on how to interview people and research and all that. So yeah, let's begin. Abbas, are you ready to go?
Wow, I go first?
Yeah, because you're right opposite me, and I feel like this is my chance to interview you, if I may.
Okay, so I thought about a lot of people who, like a lot of people went through my head. At first I thought maybe some kind of writer or artist. I first thought I'd probably like to talk to Neil Gaiman, the writer. But the thing is, Neil Gaiman has written so many things that it's I almost know his opinion and his outlook about everything. So I'll go with a bit of a cliche choice. This person is not around anymore. I would actually like to interview Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Slow clap, but wow. Okay.
Yeah, and briefly the reason is because I think that the way we are taught history in our education system, we are taught very little of the politics of the freedom fighters. Like the broad, all freedom fighters are painted with this broad paintbrush that all of them were amazing and they all had the they all wanted best for the country, and which is true, but they all went about it in different ways. I think what our history sort of falls short on is that maybe many freedom fighters didn't get along very well with each other, right? And Gandhi is this very revered figure in our history, and I have been very fond of him. But then the more you read about him, the more you read about his relationship with other freedom fighters. You want to know the crux of the decisions and why he took them and how he was able to get such a vast country behind him and get a movement going.
Right.
So that has always fascinated me. So that's why I think, and sure, there have been many books written about Gandhi, but because the freedom movement took place at a time where there was very little, there were very few videos or cameras or audio equipment. There aren't that many audio-visual references to which you can go back and hear Gandhi or see Gandhi. So I would actually like to, see him in flesh and hear his teachings or his opinions or his views from his mouth. So that would be like my ideal scenario.
What would be your questions?
Okay, so 3 questions. First, like I mentioned, I would like to know how he was able to bring the freedom movement to the masses, from a worker or a farmer to the people who are slightly in the higher or more educated classes.
Right.
I think Gandhi's message sort of spoke to all of them.
Right.
So I would like to know how he did that. As someone who was a lawyer himself, who came from South Africa, how was he able to put himself in a position where he's like, I will not wear foreign clothes, I will wear this dhoti, I will wear this, I'll go bare-chested, I'll walk for miles, and I'll
let go to a very
exactly
different,
because
level.
in today's day and time we cling so much to materialistic things, right? Like I want this brand, I want this, and we are very hesitant to let go of what we have.
Sure.
So I think Gandhi sort of, he sort of let go of everything he had because he wanted to sacrifice his ideals were so grand that he didn't doubt sacrificing things for a larger cause.
Okay.
So that's one question I would ask him. The second question I would be like, how was he peaceful during the times of turmoil? Because as we know, non-violent satyagraha, again, ideas that almost seem alien to us now because we're so restless nowadays.
Yeah.
And the third question, and again, I'm assuming since this is a person who's passed away I'm talking to, that the concept of space and time is irrelevant. So I would like to ask him what what is his opinion of what has become of the country since it got independence.
And the Congress.
And the
Yeah,
Congress, yes.
yeah.
And the party that he belongs
So it's
to.
interesting that, I mean, now that you've mentioned these points, right? One is that, after you're a lawyer,
Right.
when you switch to being a politician, which
Right.
means there are so many things that you have to undo
Yeah.
with what your profession comes with, right? Like, in the sense, you are maneuvering those ways, and as you said, the politics of dealing with fellow politicians /
Right.
freedom fighters at that time, when it was such a crucial time for Indians, and just, I mean, imagine having the decision, I mean, of course, not being the sole decision maker, but carrying forward the freedom movement on your
Right.
shoulders,
Right.
and you're obviously playing the game of politics,
Yeah.
which is...
Yeah, I think the British kind of had he had this again, and I'm say all this from or what I've read, is that if you see the freedom fighters pre-Gandhi, the British had a very stern approach of sort of denying them what they wanted.
Right.
Whereas Gandhi somehow, and this again must be his lawyer
Approach or
talent
whatever.
at work,
Right.
where the British were very against him. At the same time, he still made them willing to talk to them, come to the table, talk to us, and give us what we want.
Ask questions and
Yeah.
make a point. Yeah.
So yeah, very very fascinating personality.
Pretty layered. So
Yeah.
even though, as you said, maybe cliched, but it's
Yeah.
pretty layered.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. Like, we think that these are cliched names. His face is on our notes, and we, of course, in Indian history as kids, and
Right.
and I think though it's knowing of an Indian politician or like a freedom fighter, the freedom movement has always been replicated or like identified by. Gandhi.
Gandhi, yeah.
So it really makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I want to go back to all those history books and be like, Gandhi said this, does he mean this?
Yeah.
I have these two other producers of mine who've been quiet throughout this conversation. Karthik. He was just dreading me here. But tell me, so that one person you want to talk to.
So I would want to interview Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh.
Right, wow.
Yeah, because I've been a huge fan of his fitness, his bodybuilding days. So my parents, like especially my dad, he used to be a huge fan of these action flicks, Stallone, then Bruce Lee, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he used to make me sit and watch all those movies, including WWE, because he was way too much into action. So back then, I'm not a huge fan of his acting, but his Hollywood flicks are amazing. So yeah, that's Arnold.
So what the first three questions?
My first question would be, would you train me?
Wow.
I know, like I can picture
And that's
that.
where the
Like,
interview would end.
yeah, exactly. I can picture that. I can picture that. It would like, come on, sit down,
That's a good impression.
No, you say, go back to IVM studio.
get out. So the other question would be, how does he still manage to remain fit after he's 71 and he's still fit, and after all that politics and all, still he's maintaining a good physique, and that's pretty much impressive.
Which we are not able to do.
Exactly. I'm not able to go to gym and I'm crying over here. So yeah, that would be another question. Then, and how did he manage to keep an extramarital affair inside the same house?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like that's.
Are you sure you want to ask that
Yeah,
question?
really. I mean,
Yeah.
If you master the craft, and I mean, we have Swati, who's a champ at doing interviews, and she'll be like, the last question should be a little tamed, don't you think
and
so?
you won't ask anything about his politics, his career as a
He was
politician.
a governor of California, so it's
Yeah.
for continual terms.
Huh.
So yeah,
But he was
But
not
that doesn't
admired
seem to
for that.
interest Mr. Karthik.
Yeah, and obviously, if that's not the question, then I would want to ask, I would ask for some fitness or motivational speeches, which he's good with. Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's too much into fitness. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for the first time, I had someone Like, you know how you have like lobby conversations or break conversations. I had Karthik sit with our sound engineer and say that, you know what, aaj maine ye khaya, aaj maine ye nahi khaya, nahi, I'm going to burn this. So he better get this interview. I wish you all the luck for this.
Thank you.
I will look him up too and add some more questions to your list. But okay, so to keep the thrill going, I'm going to keep Swati's, the person who she wants to interview, a bit of a surprise or whatever, suspense. And for that, you have to stay tuned. Be right back after this break.
You know what it's been? Like every week has been an awesome week on IVM. This week on IVM, we got the 300th episode of Cyrus Says. To mark this milestone, Cyrus has an MTV VJ reunion with Malaika and Nikhil Chinappa. Listen in for tons of laughter and nostalgia. You really, really don't want to miss this. 300 episodes. On the Scene and the Unseen, Amit Verma is joined by a farmer leader, Gunwant Patil, to discuss India's agricultural crisis and the state of farmers. On Know Your Kanun, lawyer and host Ambar Rana helps us to understand the complexities related to the laws and rights regarding cruelty. Last week on the Pragati podcast, Pawan and guest host Shambhavi Nayak were joined by renowned scientist Dr. Kumarasamy Thangaraj to discuss the great genetic diversity of India. On the Kinetic Living podcast this week, Coach Urmi talks to stand-up comic and the host of Keeping It Queer, Naveen Narona, about his busy schedule and the struggle to create a fitness regime for himself. And as always, if you're not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We do a lot of really interesting stuff over there. Also, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. We have this thing called IVM CCTV over there where we give you guys a glimpse into the studio. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Welcome back to IVM Daily. I'm Priyanka. I have Karthik, Abbas and Swati in the studio, and today we were talking about the one person they would like to interview and the first 3 questions. So we were done with Karthik and Abbas, and now I'm moving on to Swati. And Swati, tell me.
So I don't know whether I should do this interview or not after listening to Karthik's last question.
Ignore that.
Anyway, so give us a little, like flashback to what his last question was and how that's got a link to do with.
His last question was something about extramarital affairs. So this person who I want to interview is Harvey Weinstein. I don't know. I mean, I just thought that there is some connection. Maybe there's not. So, so this person is this controversial figure of Mr. Harvey Weinstein, who, he was a co-founder of the Weinstein Company, and last year he was accused by at least 80 women of sexual assault and non-consensual sex. So, and this morning only, I was just going through the newspapers and the news websites, and the police in Britain, which is Scotland Yard, they are investigating a new allegation of sexual assault, which is the 11th case in Britain. So, but Mr. Weinstein has actually denied all the cases and all the accusations of non-consensual sex. So, the first question that I would ask him is, what is consent according to him? I mean, I'm really confused after, listening to his defense, and there is this entire debate about consent these days. So my first question is about consent, that what is his idea of consent? Second thing that I would want to ask him is, what does he think about himself when he looks into the mirror every morning? I'm sure it's hard for him, but I would definitely want to know from him that what figure does he see now? And the third question would be, I won't tell him to defend himself, but I would definitely ask him to explain his behavior. The accusations, based on the accusations, the behavior, the sexual behavior that was there to so many women. How does he explain that behavior? If that was not assault, what was that? So I think it's getting really serious here. I should stop now.
No, so the thing is, my question to one of your questions was that, about how would he look at himself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Now, the critical part of being an interviewer is that when we ask these questions, what is the kind of tone that we have, and is that tone sort of directing to something already? If I ask you that, hey, have you done this?
Right.
That means I'm already speculating that you are.
Yeah.
Or, I know in this case, it's pretty grave, it's all out there, and anything to do with sexual harassment is way beyond speculation. But when you're talking to that person about your character and what that person thinks of himself, what is the kind of tone that has to be set in with, layers of sort of also putting your point across?
So I think the tone actually is mostly decided by how I see it, is decided by the body language of that person itself. When you're interviewing someone, when that person sits in front of you, you already know. As an interviewee, you know that what tone are you going to use, in the sense that if you see the aggressive body language, you know how you're going to put your questions forward, and whether or not you've thought about the language, the exact language of your questions, but you somehow understand that you cannot take the aggressive body language or the tone if that person is already aggressive. That's not going to take you anywhere. So I think, and that's the reason that when I ask this question that, why, how do you see yourself in the mirror every morning? So I'm not asking you to tell me that, I see myself as a saint or a demon. I'm telling you to tell me what you think about yourself. So I'm not asking you that, I'm accusing you and you have to defend yourself. So that's not the idea.
Right.
And definitely you're right that the tone would actually tell him, what am I trying to do?
Yeah. Right. That's an art of a journalist.
Yeah.
Okay, coming from
So yeah, it actually is learned on the job, definitely, for anyone who wants to interview anyone. Like you said that you will ask this question, Karthik, the last question. Yeah. You might not ask that question.
Obviously,
by the time you're on your second question, you would probably understand that, okay, can I ask him? Or
is he flexing his
biceps?
Yeah,
is he just going to, get up and go out of the room?
Yeah.
So...
Right. I'm quite impressed that we have like a mixed bag of people in this room, and also that sort of reflects.
But what about you? What's the one personality you want to interview?
So again, maybe this would be termed as cliche, but I've always been intrigued by Princess Diana's life. And I followed like all her documentaries and film, and also, I mean, I think it was one of the early deaths of like a famous person that I saw on TV, and
a royal figure.
And also that, just appeal in terms of whenever I saw her interviews, I felt like this was someone I want to know, because when you have so much of the paparazzi or the media, and also because she came with royalty, but it sort of intrigued me even more to push the know and find out who she really would be. And owing to like her background of like her work that she did, but again, because it was on behalf of royal duties, I would always want to know that if she had to choose a profession, what would it be? If she was an ordinary person, what would it be? Because there are like a couple of things that I read online that say that, she did several things. She was like a preschool teacher. She was like a dance instructor for a bit, but she had like a skiing accident, so she didn't pursue it. And so that's one. Secondly, I don't know. I feel like asking futuristic questions because she's no more, and because we know, like, her kids and stuff like. So simply like, one is that what would she want to do for, if she was alive today, how would she perceive England and where she would see it going with like racism and stuff like that.
It's kind of similar to my Gandhi question of how he would see India.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that that's the point, right? When
you always wonder what they would have felt of the present.
The present, because there's so much that's happened.
Exactly.
And in your case, I mean, when you said about Gandhi, he fought for the future of India, and he wasn't there. Anyway, and then the third one would be, I would ask her about if she had to share, like, because I feel, because there's a lot of scrutiny, whereas Meghan Markle and, in terms of the media, and she's constantly being ripped apart, I may say, as compared to Kate Middleton. I would want to ask her, what is that one word of advice she would give her to keep away from all that crap that's coming to her? Because it's just really bizarre. I mean, the British media has not been very sweet to Meghan Markle. I mean, from her fights with her father, and it's just really weird, because this is also something that sort of depressed Princess Diana. I mean, with the kind of media attention she was getting, she didn't need it. Probably she was really a different person. So yeah, that's slightly like serious questions.
Right.
But like, yeah, I would. I mean, right now, an image that's coming to my mind right now is, a Princess Diana, the happy family with all the grandkids and everyone, and like this. I don't know why, but I'm really like this fan of hers.
Right.
Because I mean, like girls when they grow up thinking of someone who just that whole woman empowerment sense of thinking and approach, that you have someone who of course, beyond the looks, had carried so much with her and had so much to her beyond the titles and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm done with like ranting and rambling about why I like
so this was
Priyanka.
Priyanka's fangirl moment.
Yeah, this truly is. Wow. So thank you guys. This was our topic about who we would like to interview. And if you guys have any crazy people who you would like to suggest, please tell us.
Please don't say you're going to get them on the show.
You never know, okay?
Yeah.
That might just ignite some ideas.
Yep.
So you can tweet to us or, reach out to us on any of our social media. We are at IVM Podcast, and you can reach out to us individually also. I am Priyanka1091 on Twitter, and
I'm Swati Bakshi02 on Twitter.
You can reach out to me on Twitter at Abbas Moment.
You can reach out to me on Instagram because I'm not there on Twitter at _the Karthik_.
Okay, that's it for now. We'll see you on another episode of IVM Daily. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Every week comes a show where three people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.
Did I just catch you on your way to work? Or did you end up pulling an all-nighter? Let me guess. You have a packed schedule for the day, the week, and probably the month and the year. That's a lot for your mind to handle, don't you think? This buzzing chaos also brings tons of negative thoughts. Am I right? Try spinning that bottle in a positive direction with me, Chetna, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, every Monday on IBM Podcasts. It's time to change your life one alphabet at a time.